In the twisted, shadowed corridors of Viking legend, few names evoke as much suspicion and fascination as Sigvaldi Strut-Haraldsson. Son of the influential Jarl Strut-Harald of Skane, Sigvaldi didn't rise to prominence with sword-swinging, bloodthirsty bravado like so many of his contemporaries. Instead, he relied on his cunning, his elusive alliances, and a fierce ambition that left even his most loyal followers doubting his motives. Welcome to Viking Tea, where legends come to life. Today's tale weaves the threads of the cunning and controversial Sigvaldi Strut-Haraldsson. In a Viking world that revered strength and honor, Sigvaldi's actions earned him a reputation that was equal parts tactical genius and untrustworthy coward. And nothing illustrates his controversial legacy better than his roles at the infamous battles of Hjörungavágr and Svolder. Sigvaldi's strategic prowess and his questionable loyalty came to the fore during the Battle of Hjörungavágr. This was no ordinary Viking skirmish, it was a brutal, sprawling naval engagement off the coast of Norway, a showdown between the elite Jomsvikings, of whom Sigvaldi was a leader, and the combined forces of the Norwegian Jarls. Called to fight under the rule of Jarl Håkon Silesson, the battle quickly became a test of loyalty, bravery, and pure survival. And it was here that Sigvaldi's reputation for cowardice and cunning truly began to form. In the fierce heat of battle, as the winds tore through sails and arrows filled the sky, the Jomsvikings, famed for their strict code of honor and unbreakable discipline, found themselves overwhelmed by the ferocity of the Norwegian forces. The Jomsviking code forbade retreat, demanding that warriors fight to the last breath in the name of honor and valor. But Sigvaldi, ever the pragmatist, saw the hopelessness of their situation. As the battle raged and their forces were battered by a sudden and blinding hailstorm, an omen that had the men questioning whether the Norwegians were protected by their pagan gods, Sigvaldi made a decision that would cast a shadow over his leadership. He ordered a retreat. To the horror of his fellow Jomsvikings, Sigvaldi turned his ship away from the fight, signaling a retreat that went against everything the Jomsviking code stood for. For some, this was a mark of cowardice, an unforgivable act that would mar his name forever. To others, it was a demonstration of his cold, calculating survival instinct, a willingness to break tradition to save himself and those who chose to follow him. By retreating, Sigvaldi not only violated the sacred Jomsviking principles, but he also forever branded himself as a man who would flee from a fight if it suited him. This incident at Hjörungavágr showed the Viking world that Sigvaldi's loyalty was always on his own terms, and that he would never hesitate to choose survival over honor. Yet, this cunning maneuver did not stop his rise to power. Sigvaldi went on to play an even more infamous role in Viking history at the Battle of Svolder. Here, he solidified his reputation not just as a cunning tactician, but as a master of betrayal. Sigvaldi had ostensibly allied himself with King Olaf Tryggvason of Norway, a fierce ruler who had converted to Christianity and was determined to spread the faith throughout Scandinavia. However, the alliance proved to be hollow. Secretly, Sigvaldi had conspired with King Sweyn Forkbeard of Denmark and King Olaf of Sweden to betray Olaf, positioning himself as a puppet master who could orchestrate the downfall of a king. When Olaf sailed into the trap set by his ally, Sigvaldi led him straight into an ambush, abandoning him in the midst of his enemies. Trapped and outnumbered, Olaf fought valiantly but ultimately perished in the ensuing slaughter. Sigvaldi's betrayal here was one of the most brazen in Viking history, showing his peers that he was willing to switch allegiances in the blink of an eye, all for the sake of maintaining his position and influence. But the big question remains, was Sigvaldi simply a masterful opportunist, or did he have grander aspirations of his own? Some historians suggest that Sigvaldi's actions hinted at ambitions beyond that of a mere Jarl's son or Jomsviking leader. By aligning himself with kings, betraying them, and maneuvering his forces to suit his own ends, Sigvaldi might have been positioning himself as more than just a side player in the Viking power game. Could it be that he dreamed of ruling more than he was ever allowed to? For a man of Sigvaldi's intellect and cunning, perhaps the thrones of Denmark or Norway gleamed enticingly on the horizon, always just beyond his reach. It's possible that he saw his alliances with Sweyn Forkbeard and others as steps toward a grander destiny, even if that destiny was ultimately thwarted by his own reputation. In his lifetime, Sigvaldi was respected for his tactical mind, but he was never fully trusted by those he served. Yet, in the end, Sigvaldi's story dissolves into mystery, like a dark cloud drifting away from the battlefield. Some say he faded into obscurity, slipping from the Viking world in the same way he slipped away from battle, his fate unknown, his ambitions unrealized. but his legacy as a cunning, divisive, and enigmatic figure lives on, a man who could have achieved greatness but was forever haunted by his own untrustworthy nature. Sigvaldi Strut-Haraldsson, a Viking commander who defied tradition, betrayed his allies, and perhaps dreamed of ruling a world that would never accept him. Thanks for watching Viking Tea. Like and subscribe for more epic Viking stories every week.